Hello, welcome to the Redesigning School Counseling video for school counseling council members who are preparing for Discussion 1. The focus of that discussion is program goals. My name is Sue Reynolds and I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute. So your school is participating in Redesigning School Counseling, or RSC. RSC is a proven, data-driven program design process that results in increases in student achievement. So you're serving as a school counseling council member as part of the Redesigning School Counseling process. And on behalf of our organization and also of the counselors in your school, thank you very much for agreeing to serve on the council. We know you're doing that because you care about your community and your community's young people, and it really means a lot to us, and I know it means a lot to your school that you're donating your time to be involved in these discussions. So thank you. So a little bit of an introduction to our organization and to myself. First of all, ASA is a nonprofit. We were founded in 2000. We're located in Bloomington, Indiana. Our mission is to raise student achievement and close achievement gaps. And our work is to enable local leadership teams like yours to engage in data-driven strategic planning, program implementation, and program evaluation. We have several initiatives across the country, and the one that you are participating in is Redesigning School Counseling. Currently, we're serving 194 local leadership teams like yours in these different initiatives across the country. So I founded ASA in 1996 and currently serve as president. My background is in school counseling. I was a school counselor in public schools for many years. I also was fortunate enough to serve as executive director of the Indiana School Counseling Association and on the governing board for the American School Counselor Association. And I was selected as the National High School Counselor of the Year several years ago. So my background in counseling also took me to the Department of Education, where I served as the school counseling consultant there. While at DOE, we wrote the school counseling standards. We created the Gold Star School Counseling Initiative. We set up the Indiana Career Pathways and Indiana's Advisor-Advisee Professional Development. So lots of work when I was at DOE. Loved my time there, and equally loved my time with ASA, and especially the time that we spent on redesigning school counseling. So here's what this video will talk about. During this video, we want to make sure that you're very familiar with redesigning school counseling. When you meet face-to-face with the other council members at your first discussion, everyone will assume that you understand RSC, the process, the terminology, foundational beliefs. So we want to make sure that during this video that we've covered all of that. And then also this video will cover how to prepare for this first discussion on goals. So we'll do a quick introduction to how we do goal setting, and then we'll set up your pre-discussion task, which is where you'll actually get online, look at the student data from your school, and think about that data before you come to the first discussion. So we'll set that up during this video. Okay, so let's look at that RSC intro. So again, RSC is a proven program design process. We have 197 Indiana schools that have used RSC to earn the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award. The award is presented by the Indiana Department of Education based on DOE's standards, but we provide the professional development to help schools meet those standards. So we're connected very much with Indiana Gold Star. We've also helped 197 schools become eligible for the very prestigious ASCA Recognized Model Program, or RAMP Award. Of the 197, 129 applied and received for the award. The others did not apply because there was a monetary fee that has to be paid to ASCA, and the schools decided not to spend the money in that way. But 129 did and received that award. And you can see, compared to the rest of the country, that Indiana is way out in front, as we are in many areas of school counseling. That where most states have, 2 or 3 RAMP schools, We have 197 that are ramp eligible and 129 that actually receive the award. We've also had several wonderful organizations say nice things about us, which is always nice. For example, the Indiana Chamber of Commerce Foundation said that the RSC program provides a consistent and comprehensive process for schools to examine, organize, and redesign their school counseling efforts based on student goals and outcomes. So we're real pleased about things that others have said about us and the strength of our program. But the bottom line is really this. What we want to make sure is happening is we want to make sure that student achievement is going up because of our redesigning school counseling process. And independent researchers at two universities, University of Connecticut and University of Scranton, published research that they did on RSC in our process, and they determined and published an article in the Ask a School Counselor that the RSC Gold Star schools have significantly higher proficiency rates on state math and language arts tests, so our I-STEP tests and our end of course assessments. And we're really pleased with that because that's what RSC is all about. It's about helping kids make good choices, good decisions in areas that are going to impact academic achievement. So that's a little bit about us and our background. Let's talk now about the terminology. So very important through these next 3 meetings that you'll be having through videos with us and also face-to-face with your other council members at home. We want to make sure that we all understand the types of activities that school counselors provide for students. So the 4 kinds of activities are guidance, counseling, advocacy, and management. So I'll define each of those so that we can all understand what we're saying when we're using those terms. So there's one other kind of activity that we'll talk about that really is not part of school counseling that we call non-program activities. They're activities that counselors are sometimes asked to do that really have nothing to do with guidance or counseling, but counselors do them, so we want to name them. Okay, so let's look at guidance and counseling. Guidance activities are the activities that enable all students to learn information and skills in 3 areas: career development, academic development, and personal social or social emotional development. And there are actually standards and indicators in all 3 of those areas that school counselors are helping students to master. Just like students master math standards or science standards, there are career development standards, academic development standards, and social personal standards that school counselors help students to master. And then we want them to use that information to make sound choices, to choose to take rigorous classes, to choose to turn in their homework, to choose not to punch somebody in the nose when they're mad at them. So we're teaching content in those 3 areas to help kids make good choices. So those are guidance activities, and notice that the word all is underlined. Guidance activities are for all kids. All kids need to develop their knowledge and their awareness of careers. All kids need to develop in their academic development, and all kids need to develop social personal skills so that they can get along with peers and superiors and teachers and the people around them. So okay, so that's guidance. Guidance is for all students. Counseling activities, on the other hand, are activities that help some students address a personal and or social problem that's interfering with their learning. So if your school is typical, not all kids have social personal concerns that are interfering with learning. About 1 in 5 will. And so, if you think about it, if you're walking down the hall at school, 1 out of 5 kids that you're passing has brought some type of social personal issue to school, or the issue happened at school, and that issue is interfering with their ability to learn. So when counselors are doing counseling activities, they're not teaching, they're actually using counseling theory and counseling techniques that they learned in a graduate program and practiced in a supervised practice experience before coming to your school to implement those counseling activities in your building. So counseling is for some students and guidance is for all students. Guidance is when we're in teaching mode, and counseling is when we're in counseling mode, when we're helping students to overcome those social personal issues. So, okay. The next two terms are advocacy and management. Those are other types of activities that school counselors do. In advocacy activities, that's when counselors are standing up to support some kind of environmental change that's needed to meet the needs of all students or a group of students. For example, let's say that your school started charging students to purchase equipment for a class and your low-income students could not afford that those pieces of equipment, and so they were unable to take that class. Well, the counselor would stand up for those kids and try to get that policy changed. So we're advocating for kids and looking for things that are getting in the way of some students learning and then being advocates for those students. And then also the advocacy could be for an individual student. So if there were a student that needed an advocate to stand up for them, it's in some way at school, the counselor would do that. A lot of times counselors will go to a meeting with a student, like an annual case conference, to be there as the student advocate with the student. So, or, you know, there's just lots of different times when an individual student may need an advocate, and the counselor would fill that role. So those are advocacy activities. And then management activities are activities that counselors have to do to make sure that the school counseling program runs smoothly. So it's the behind-the-scenes things that counselors are doing that will enable them to work efficiently with kids and teachers and parents. So here are common management activities that counselors might do. Program development, when your counselors are engaged in redesigning school counseling to develop their programs, that's a program management activity. It's a program design activity. Professional development, when counselors are attending conferences and workshops, that's a legitimate use of counselor time to make their skills better. Networking with folks in the school and the community, networking with parents or networking with teachers or community agencies or the school improvement team, that's a legitimate management activity. And then evaluation, and that's something again in RSC that we build into our system. And so when counselors are collecting data, when they're studying and reviewing that data, they're in evaluation mode, and that is also a legitimate management activity for their school counseling program. So when we're talking about goals this month with your counselors and with you, and we're looking at data, that's an evaluation activity, and so counselors are doing management activity at that point. Okay, so those are the 4 types of school counseling activities: guidance, counseling, advocacy, and non-program. Guidance, counseling, advocacy, and management. And then there are these non-program activities. So non-program activities are activities that do not help students gain a knowledge or skill that will help them make sound career, academic, or in personal social choices. In other words, they're not guidance activities. And they're not activities that will help students address a personal social issue that's interfering with learning. So they're not counseling activities. So if it's not counseling, it's not guidance, it's not advocacy, it's not management, it's probably going to be non-program. So here are typical non-program activities that are assigned to counselors. And you know, when you look at these tasks, I mean, they're good tasks. Somebody in the school has to do them. So administration, things like state testing, state reports, setting up the gifted and talented program, being an administrator for special ed, substitute teaching. I mean, you know, somebody's got to do those things, and somebody's got to be the school's registrar, getting the report cards out, you know, managing the transcripts, calculating the GPAs and class ranks and honor rolls. You know, somebody's got to do that. Somebody's got to write the master schedule. Somebody's got to make sure that all the class sections are balanced with a relatively equal number of students. Somebody's got to put on graduation. Somebody's got to handle discipline. So these are legitimate tasks that have to happen in a school. They're just not school counseling. And what we find is that in some schools, counselors are so many of these tasks are assigned to school counselors that they don't have time to do anything else. I can tell you in my own school counseling program, the first time we did a time use study, which your counselors have been doing for the past several weeks, we found that we were spending 90% of our time doing these non-program activities. So in this first meeting that you're going to have with your counselors, they'll talk with you about the percentage of time that they spend in each of those 4 areas, and then also the percentage of time that they spend in non-programs. So you can kind of get a sense if that's okay with you or if that's an area we need to make changes with. I can tell you when I left that school that I was at where I was spending 90% of my time on these tasks, over several years we were able to get that percentage down to 10%. With the help of our council. And when I went to DOE, we were really pleased that we were spending 90% of our time with kids and parents instead of all these other tasks. So, but again, they're good tasks. I mean, somebody has to do them. Okay. One other term we want to define is the word college. You'll hear us use that term a lot, and we just wanted to point out that we're using that term very broadly. So when we say college, we mean all types of viable post-secondary education. So 4-year college, 2-year college, career college, apprenticeship programs, career training in the military, just all the viable ways that students can continue their education after 12th grade. Okay. So a little bit about our foundational beliefs, and this is really key to the work that you'll be doing today in the rest of this video, but also in your first meeting with your counsel. So we believe that school counseling programs impact academic achievement by helping students make sound choices in areas that impact academic success. So 2 keys there. We're helping kids make sound choices. So our goals, the goals that we talk about today, are all going to be about helping kids make good choices, because we believe that when kids make those good choices, that academic success will go up. So this is just another way of saying the same thing. We call it our impact pyramid. We believe that when students are involved in sound guidance and counseling programs, they make better choices, and as a result, achievement goes up. So in your participation in your counsel, we're just going to take this pyramid and we're going to work it backwards. In the next few weeks or days, you'll be receiving from your school the school's academic achievement goals. So we're going to start with academic achievement, and then today and when you meet with your counsel, we're going to talk about, okay, what are the choices that kids need to make in order for achievement to go up, and those will become our school counseling program goals. And then later, a couple months from now, we'll start looking at, okay, what are the activities we need to put in place to help kids make those choices. So it's all about the student choices, and those student choices will become our goal. So now that you kind of understand a little bit about how the terminology that we use when we're talking about school counseling and our foundational belief, let's talk about why this is important. So raising student achievement, addressing and improving the school counseling program so that achievement will increase, that helps kids, and here's how it helps. First of all, when students have higher achievement and continue their education past high school, they tend to earn more over a lifetime. So in this graph, we're seeing the earnings for bachelor's degree, associate degree, some college but no degree, and just a high school diploma. So kids earn more. They are less likely to be unemployed with more education. They are more likely to have a retirement plan from their employer with more education. They're more likely to have health insurance from their employer with more education. They are less likely to be involved in public assistance programs with more education. They're less likely to smoke. They're more likely to exercise. They're less likely to be obese. They're more likely to participate in activities with their children when they grow up to become adults. They're more likely to volunteer with more education. and they're more likely to vote with more education. So a big impact on students' lives and on their quality of living, and so many of those things also impact your community. So there's a community impact as you raise achievement and help kids continue their education beyond 12th grade. That's what school counseling is all about, helping kids make the choices that will enable them to continue their education after 12th grade and to complete post-secondary education on time. Okay, raising achievement is also good for your community's economic development. When you meet with your council, you're going to find that some of your council members represent business or your county economic development council or your chamber of commerce or the manufacturing community. So there will be business folks and industry folks at the table with you when you sit down to talk. And it'll be interesting to see what their take is on the next few slides. In the study from Pew Research Center that came out just a couple months ago, they show that employment growth is happening more rapidly in occupations requiring higher social skills, which is interesting because school counselors, we teach social personal skills, and also analytical skills. And that analytical skill is one that we really want to pay attention to because we're hearing, and I think you'll hear on your council too, that there are jobs open in your county that are, high-paying, high-skill, high-wage jobs that are unable to be filled because you lack the sufficient skills in the workforce to fill those positions. And that's what these studies are showing. So this is one study from Pew Research showing that employment requiring analytical skills is going up. And then this is another study that came out a couple months ago that talks about how there's this mismatch, that there are millions of jobs going begging right now in what has got to be one of the biggest mismatches between skills and lack of qualified help available in the nation's history. So again, it will be interesting to talk with your council, with the people representing business, industry, a chamber of commerce, economic development council, that are sitting at the table with you to see if this is true in your community. And from all the discussions we've had across the state, I think you're going to find that that's true. Testing data also will back this up. There's an assessment that's given internationally called the TIMSS assessment. It's given in 40 or 50 countries around the globe. It's administered every 4 years, and there's a math test and a science test. And we can see that in the math assessment in the 2015 assessment, which was the last one that was given, for fourth graders, there were 49 countries that participated. The top 3 countries were Singapore, Hong Kong, and Korea. And the United States was 11th. So if you're a business or an industry that needs, workers that are really high-skilled in math, you're probably going to be looking to Singapore, Hong Kong, and Korea, more so than the United States, because you just can't find those employees in the United States. Same thing with 8th grade, we were 9th. And then in 12th grade, there were only 9 countries that participated in the 12th grade assessment. And we were 3rd, which sounds good, but if you think there were only 9 countries, so that means that we were just barely into the top 3rd of all the countries in the 12th grade assessment. So there's math. We did a little bit better in science. We were 8th in 4th graders. Our 8th graders were also 8th. And in physics, out of the 9 countries, we were 2nd. But again, if you're a business and industry, if you're a CEO and you're looking for high-skilled people in math, science, technology, engineering, those STEM areas, the workforce may not be at home. You may be having to either send work out to other countries or bring in employees from other countries. So something to think about. And we hear from the business community, especially the manufacturing community, a lot about how there's this need to strengthen our workforce. And that's important for your students, because then if your students can have those high skills and be able to fill those high skill, high wage jobs at home, I mean, that's a win-win. So, okay, so something to think about with that. So, raising achievement is good for kids, it's good for your community, it's good for economic development in your community. Okay, so now let's look at the nitty-gritty of RSC. We want to look at the organizational structure first. So there is a steering team that's organizing all this. So they're kind of like the process managers. So the steering team consists of 5 or more people, and we've divvied up the tasks on the steering team. So the steering team are the worker bees. So the 5 people have each agreed to be in charge of one type of task. As a council member, you'll be coming in contact with 2 of the steering team members. One of the members is responsible for communicating with you, so that person will be sending you emails, probably sent you the email that had this video attached to it. And then the other council member will be facilitating the face-to-face meetings that you go to. So, but there's another person that's in charge of data collection, another person that's in charge of exploring best practices when you get to the activity step, and then there's one person that's in charge of getting all the documentation into the online system, so our staff can review it and make tips and kind of see what's going on as you go through this work. And then there's the council. So the council is who you are. So you're sitting on your school counseling council. The council are people that have come to the table to think. So you have a very unique perception that you're bringing to the table. You may be a 3rd grade parent, or you may be a business representative, or you may be a representative of a mental health agency, or a faith-based organization, or a youth-serving organization, but or a teacher or student. And so you've all come to the table with these different perspectives to talk, to think and talk. So your tasks as a council member are to complete 3 pre-discussion tasks. That's what we're doing right now. And then you'll come to the table and participate in 3 discussions. And then as you learn more about counseling, we think that some of you will become, champions for school counseling. At least that's been our experience in the past. On your council, as I mentioned, all different kinds of people, teachers, students, parents, and then community stakeholder groups. Now, down the road, in a couple of months, we will invite you to not only be a council member, but to also become a partner. That's an optional thing. And what that means is that you've thought of a way that you could help implement an activity that would help the school meet some of its counseling goals. So let's say that one of the goals is that all students would choose and get to visit a college campus. Maybe that's a goal for 5th graders. And so if you're a member of the Kiwanis Club, a light bulb may go off and you might say, man, that would be a great service project for us. We can put all those 5th graders on a bus on a Saturday and take them to see a couple post-secondary institutions. So if you get to that point where you want to jump in and join forces with the school to deliver services that correspond and enhance what the school is doing, then you would become a school counseling partner. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Some of you won't be in a position to do that, but we'd like you to kind of be thinking about, how could my Kiwanis Club or my faith-based organization, or my business, how could we get involved and help the schools to help kids? So, okay, so that's the organizational structure, and then here's the process. So part of the process was done already. The people who started this at your school put together a steering team, they've convened your council, they've collected data. And where we are right now then is for this next step, which is goals. We're going to talk about that in a second, and then when you come to the table for the first time, we'll be talking about goals. That's happening in February. Then in March, we'll bring another set of data to the table, and we're going to be looking for, okay, why aren't kids making those choices that we want them to make? Is it that they don't have enough information? Is it that we haven't given them the opportunity to do it? For example, the kids know that they should do a campus visit, but we've not given them the opportunity to do that. Or is it that they have personal social issues that are getting in the way of them being able to make any good choice? So when we get to this root cause step, we're looking at the whys. We call those root causes. And we'll sit down with you with another set of data, and we'll try to figure out just exactly why aren't kids making those choices that we want them to make. Okay, and then once we know the whys, we'll come back in April and we'll start doing a lot of exploration of how to fix those whys. So we'll look to see what other schools have done. We'll, think out of the box, something brand new maybe that nobody's ever done before that you'll do for the first time anywhere. We'll look at how do we package a lot of activities, maybe with a teacher advisor program or a community-based guidance initiative or a parent-delivered guidance program, in addition to the traditional school counseling program. So we'll look at all kinds of delivery models and all kinds of activities, and we'll be coming up with a 4-year plan for how to really kind of present a brand new school counseling program, an initiative that reaches all students and helps all kids make good choices. And then when that's finished, that's your last discussion, and then the steering team members will start to prepare for the implementation of that plan. So they'll create a 4-year implementation plan. They'll create a 4-year budget to drive that program and get everything ready to start implementing next year. So that's the process. So 3 discussions for you as a council member. Now, the other thing that as we're talking about implementing whatever you come up with as a council, we do want you to know that there's financial support available from Lilly Endowment, and actually quite a lot of funding. If we look down here at the grant amount, this is a competitive grant, so not every school that's planning right now across the state is going to get one, but we hope that you will, and we're trying to really set you up so that you have everything you need to write a really competitive grant application. So it's $100,000 for districts that have fewer than 1,000 students, and $100 per student for districts with over 1,000 students. So quite a large chunk of funding here. And again, we're trying to get it all set up so that you will have a very competitive grant at the end of this process. So you might be thinking, what would we use this money on in the next 4 years? Well, once you have your program designed or identified, there'll have to be some time spent developing the program. So if you decide we're going to put a teacher advisor program in, somebody's got to develop that program, write the curriculum. Somebody's got to train the teachers that are going to implement it. The teachers need to be trained on, how to implement the curriculum, limits of confidentiality, all of that. There's going to be program evaluation. So all of these things, as you're implementing the new stuff, all these things are going to cost you time. This grant can be used to purchase time. Either you're paying somebody in the school to work outside of contract hours to do this as an add-on to their job, just like we pay a basketball coach to do things outside of their contract time as an add-on to their job. You may pay for technical assistants to come in and help you do it or to do it for you. And then if there's materials that need to be purchased, you can spend the money on that as well. So whatever you come up with, there is a significant amount of funding available. We always get the question, well, what if this grant doesn't come through, because it is competitive? What we're saying is don't stop shopping for money. Maybe chunk up your grant and go to different local businesses or go to a different foundation and shop that grant application to other organizations until you find an organization or a group of organizations that will fund this initiative. So the grant deadline to Lilly is May 19th. That means that we would like schools to be finished with all this planning by May 9th, and that will give the people at the district level who are writing the district grant application about 10 days to get that district grant written. So, okay. Then the other thing that will happen at the end of this is your school may choose to apply for the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award or the National Ask a Ramp Award. So we'll make sure that the school has met all the criteria for both of those awards. So it won't be extra work. It'll just be a matter of submitting the documentation that the work is complete. So, okay. So now let's talk about this month's tasks. So we're going to really focus in now on goals. We're finished with the introduction, and now we want to talk about getting you ready to come to that first discussion. So discussion 1 is on goals, and here's how we express goals. So when we're talking about goals in RSC for the school counseling program, we're going to say our goal is to increase the percentage of, and then it will always be the percentage of a student group. So the percentage of all students, the percentage of 8th graders, the percentage of boys. So the percentage of all students who, and then that will be the benchmark, the percentage of all students who report bullying when observed, take a career interest inventory, talk to their parents about school, create a high school course plan. Then we'll drop in baseline data. Your schools have been busy collecting a ton of baseline data right now. And then we'll drop in target data. So this will be, where do we think that this data could be a year from now? And then because of the Lilly grant, we're going to take that target data out 4 years. So a year from now, 2 years from now, 3, 4 years from now. But our initial question is, where do we think we can be at the end of next school year? So this is how we're expressing goals. It's always to increase the percentage of all students who report bullying when observed. Current day is 65. We want to increase that to 85 by the end of next school year. Increase the percentage of all 8th graders who create a high school course plan. Right now, none of them are, and we're going to make sure that every single one of them does next year. So that's how we're expressing data. Now, in this discussion that you go to, we're going to be talking about 3 things. So your steering team will facilitate this discussion. So they're going to ask you to come up with program goals, to give your input on program goals. So and that question is, what choices should all students make ideally in order for your school to reach the academic goals in its school improvement plan? So basically, what choices do we want kids to make? When you think about successful students in the choices that they make every single year about coming to school and doing their homework and asking questions when they're confused, and then later making a campus visit, submitting scholarship applications, there's really a lot of choices that successful students have to make. And I think you're going to find that there may be 60 or 70 different choices that kids need to make in order to be successful students in your school. So those choices we're going to call program goals. Then the next question you will talk about is, what will be the priority goals? Those are a subset of the program goals, and the question is, given the limits of our time, energy, and funding, which program goals should our school tackle first, because not enough students are making those choices. So we're going to look at the data then and say, okay, all of these goals are important, but oh my gosh, did you see the data on this one goal? I can't believe how few students are making this choice. This is one we really need to nail first. So you'll identify those priority goals. And then finally, we're going to ask you to look at some drill down reports that look at disaggregated student groups. So we will look at race, ethnicity, we'll look at income level, free and reduced lunch, we'll look at gender, and we'll say, are there some student groups that tend to make sound choices at a lesser rate than their peers? And if so, later we can, as we're presenting activities for all students, we can present them in a way that might engage a student group that's having a guidance gap. For example, if we're wanting kids to understand the importance of math in careers, and we know that there's less of an understanding among girls, we might want to make sure that all of the speakers that we're bringing in are female, so that they, will associate, the girls will associate with the comments that those female speakers are making. The comments will still apply to the males, but we're just trying to make that connection with the girls. So, okay, so that's the guidance gaps, 3 different discussions. So your steering team sent you an email, and that's why you're watching this video. You got that email, and the very first step said to watch the council video, which is what you're doing right now. Then we want you, second step is to review the academic goals. Those should have been attached to the email that you got. And then you're going to look at a data report that you can get to with this link. I'm going to show you how to open that up in a sec. And then you're going to put a star next to any choice that you do not think that students in your school have to make. So any choice on that report that students in your building you really don't think they have to make to be successful in your school and to reach your academic goals, just put a star next to it. You may have no stars, that's fine. And then you're going to circle data that concern you because too few students are making sound choices in those areas. So that's the first task. And then the second task is to open some of the drill down reports. So for example, if you are Hispanic and you want to see, I wonder what kind of choices the Hispanic kids are making versus the non-Hispanic, you could open up that report and look at that. If you are big into gender issues, you might want to look at the gender drill down. If you're an advocate for low-income families, you might want to look at the free and reduced lunch drill down report to see what kind of choices free and reduced lunch kids are making. So based on, just what interests you, I think you'll become advocates for different student groups. So, okay. So a quick demonstration. I'm going to go ahead and then we'll wrap up. But I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser. Okay. So we want to go to the survey results. So we're going to www.asa Institute, it'd help if I could spell it right, institute.org, then /CCRS for College and Career Readiness Survey -public -data. And that will take you to the survey page. Then to get the survey data that you want, we want to look for 2017. We're looking for the school level. We're going to scroll down a little bit here. We're going to look for county. I'm just going to put in Porter County. And then you'll see that'll pull up all the schools in your county. Find your school. Click on that. So I'm going to click on Boone Grove High School. So now I've got Porter highlighted, Boone County's highlighted. I'm going to come down and click All Grades. Now for that first report, I'm looking for the Plans and Choices report, and I'm going to go to the grade level drill down. So I'm going to click on that report, and the computer is pulling in all the data. And the first thing we see is we don't have any data for grades 3 through 8, and that makes sense because grades 3 through 8 are not housed in this school. So do you plan to go to college? Over here, 9th graders are saying 90% are saying yes, and there were 30 9th graders so far that have taken the survey, and 27 of them responded yes to this. So this, you can see that the data gives you the total number of students who answered that question, and then the total number that answered either yes, no, or not sure, whatever the response was, and then it gives you the percentage. So the first thing you want to do is just kind of scroll through. I would print the report first thing, and then just look at the prompt. Did you take a written or online career interest inventory this year? If you think that's an important thing for your kids to do while they're enrolled in your school, just leave it the way it is. But if you don't think it's really important for kids to take a career interest inventory while they're enrolled in your building, then put a star by that, and that will tell you later when you come to the meeting. You're going to bring this report with you. That will tell you, how to engage in the conversation that we have. Also, if you find data that disturb you, like we're seeing 33% of the 9th graders said that they took a career interest inventory, only 9% of 10th graders did. You may think, oh my gosh, that's horrible, and you'll circle that. Someone else may think that's okay because they took one in 9th grade. So it's just kind of your perspective. That's why we want so many different perspectives at the table. Your perspective will help you look at this data different ways. So okay, so that's step one, to just go through and look for things that you don't think, choices that you don't think that kids need to make, and then data that disturbs you. And then the second task was to look in those drill down reports. So let's say that I'm an advocate for free and reduced lunch kids. I'm going to go to the, or I'm just curious about free and reduced lunch responses. So I'm going to go to Plans and Choices. I'm going to go over here to Lunch Program Status. So I'm going to click on this icon, and that'll pull up the report with the desegregation by lunch status. So you can see, do you plan to go to college? 82% of all students said yes. 81% of the free and reduced said yes. 87% of the paid lunch kids said yes. So yeah, so you know, a 6-point gap, that might not bother you too much. It might bother other people a whole lot. So again, that's just from your perspective, how much of a gap there has to be before it's bothersome to you. And if we look at some of this other data going to a four-year college, you know, here we can see the gap's a little bigger, 62% free and reduced, 71% for paid lunch. And there's really, I think you'll find that some of these drill downs are, you know, really quite interesting. Just kind of looking through here. Yeah, do you have an up-to-date resume? Free and reduced 20%, paid lunch 33%. So you might be upset by both of those data that it's so low, but again, we're seeing kind of a gap here. So yeah, so okay, so that's that. The last thing is that if you have questions as you're completing this task, call your council member that sent you this email. Contact them and ask them the questions. They'd be happy to answer your questions. And then don't forget to bring this paper printout with you to the meeting, because you'll be using those responses as you participate in the discussions. Okay, so that's it. Thank you again so much for serving on your council. It's been a pleasure to work with your steering teams, and I look forward to hearing from them about how that first discussion went with you when you all come to the table for that first talk. So thanks again. Thanks so much.